What is going on, everyone? This is Eric coming at you, as always, from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And today will be part 3 of our 3-part series discussing the top 10 prospects in each division. And the West is definitely an interesting one. You definitely have some very, very good farm systems and prospects, but then you have some very weak ones. So, without further ado, we will jump in. I do want to quickly mention that the pictures that I'm using to have for the thumbnails, the East is going to be Orioles prospect catcher Adley Rutschman. The Central is going to be the Chicago White Sox outfielder Luis Robert, and the West here is going to be San Diego Padres starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore. Basically, I just wanted to choose the top prospect in each video to make the thumbnail, but we'll jump right into the video now. So, of course, first and foremost, we have the Houston Astros, and I'm not going to talk about the cheating scandal. I don't want to in this video. So, this farm system is actually one of, if not the weakest Houston Astros farm system we've ever seen, in all honesty. So they only have one top 100 prospect, and that's going to be the 21st prospect, right-handed pitcher Forrest Whitley. Now, he's actually been promoted to the majors, and he's been hurt. It hasn't been, to my knowledge, it's not anything major, but he has been hurt. And then you have fellow right-hander Jose Urquidy. He's been hurt the whole season. He hasn't played at all. He was considered a sleeper for the 2020 season, but he hasn't played at all. Then you have infielder Freitas Nova, a pair of righties in Brian Abreu and Christian Javier, a shortstop second baseman Jeremy Pena, catcher Corey Lee, and a trio of righties in Hunter Brown, Alex Santos, and Jairo Solis. So you can tell just by looking at this farm system that they're definitely right-handed pitcher heavy. 7 of your top 10 prospects are right-handed pitchers. That's good and bad. You want to have some southpaws mixed in there, because trust me, as a Phillies fan, I can tell you, if you have a ton of righties, teams are just going to stack against you, and you're not going to be yeah, you're playing the averages, but it doesn't work out. And right now, it looks like Whitley has a chance to be a good player in the majors, but Urquidy, he looked good in limited appearances last year, 2019. But after that, I mean, it's a bunch of question marks. Houston, for years they were just garbage, bottom team in the league, so they kept getting all the top picks. That's how you get guys like Bregman, uh, Altuve, Springer. That's how you get these guys. But once they graduate, now your team's good, and of course you're losing draft picks here and there. It's not good. Your farm system suffers. So that's where Houston is. So they're, interestingly enough, they drafted 5 of these players and they signed 5 of these players. So they got an even split there. Now let's go to the LA Angels, and they have 3 top 100 prospects in the number 6 prospect outfielder Joe Adell, the number 83 prospect outfielder Brandon Marsh, and the number 85 prospect in left-hand pitcher Reed Detmers. Then we have outfielder Jordan Adams, shortstop second baseman Jeremiah Jackson, shortstop Kyrene Paris, right-handed pitcher Chris Rodriguez, second baseman Jahmai Jones, outfielder Deshaun Nolas, and shortstop Aro Vera. So we've seen Joe Adell in the majors this year. He hasn't been doing that good, but a lot of these top prospects that got called up in 2020 have been struggling. He's not alone. I mean, it makes sense because these guys, you're kind of going from, the alternate training camp to actual competition, and it's a weird season. You don't go from playing actual games, you go from playing teammates that to jumping into the wildfire. So it does make sense that a lot of these guys are struggling in the majors. Joe Adell still has a heck of a lot of potential, and he's definitely not someone to sleep on. I wouldn't look away from him and be like, oh, it's okay, he's gonna stink. No. Like I said, it's a lost season 2020. Keep your hopes up, Angels fans. I think Joe Adell is going to be a great pairing with Mike Trout for the next, hopefully, decade, if you're an Angels fan. The rest of these guys, decent players. Brandon Marsh isn't bad, but I don't, especially as an East Coast person, I'm not 100% familiar with a lot of these names. but they have a good healthy mix of players, specifically offensive players, but the Angels always seem to find a way to get some decent pitching here and there. So we'll see with the Angels. They built this with 8 guys that they drafted, and then they signed two of them. Now we get to the Oakland Athletics. And the Athletics actually have 3 guys in the top 100 in the number 13 prospect, left-handed pitcher Jesus Luzardo, the number 34 prospect catcher, Sean Murphy, and the number 62 prospect, left-handed pitcher, A.J. Puck, along with shortstop Robert Posen, catcher Tyler Soderstrom, shortstop second baseman Nick Allen, third baseman shortstop Sheldon Neuse, shortstop Logan Davidson, right-handed pitcher Dalton Jeffries, and outfielder Luis Barria. So it's definitely, the top 2 pitchers that they have there, Luzardo and Puck, have both looked good. Puck's been hurt this year, 2020. Luzardo, he started off a little shaky, but he's definitely been good since. These are 2 of the top pitching prospects in baseball, so they're definitely in a good position if you're Oakland. You have a lot of sneaky, quiet offensive players that tend to do good. So there's definite hope if you're a fan of this team, because your pitching market's actually looking decent. And you have 2 catchers in your top 5, which is always good. I mean, I'd rather have too many catchers than not enough, because catchers are hard to come by. Sean Murphy looks like he's going to be the real deal. And then, of course, other than Puck and Luzardo, you really don't have a lot of pitching prospects, but you do have a good amount of infield. So there's hope for the Athletics in the future. They acquired 8 of these guys from the draft. They traded for 2 of them, and then they signed 2 of them as international free agents. Now we get to arguably the best farm system in baseball, and that's going to be the Seattle Mariners. Now they have 6 top 100 prospects. So that right there tells you that this farm system is good to go. And 3 of them are outfielders, a pair of right-hand pitchers, and a first baseman. You have the number 12 prospect in baseball, outfielder Jared Kelenic, the number 19 prospect in outfielder Julio Rodriguez, the number 37 prospect in right-handed pitcher Emerson Hancock, the number 42 prospect in right-handed pitcher Logan Gilbert, the number 58 prospect in first baseman Evan White, and the number 59 prospect in outfielder Taylor Trammell, whom they just acquired in a trade. So they're looking good. And then, of course, you have right-handed pitcher George Kirby, shortstop Noelvi Marte, right-handed pitcher Justin Dunn, and to top it off, a catcher named Cal Raleigh. So this is definitely one of the top farm systems in baseball. Evan White has made his debut this year, and he hasn't looked that good. So there is concern there. But again, sometimes teams rush prospects to the big leagues so they can get them ready, especially in a year like this. It makes sense, especially for a team like Seattle. You're not going to compete this year. Why not take a shot? Why not hope that you can get somebody good out of Evan White, get him prepared for the majors? Trammell is a guy who's been traded a couple times in the past year, which is really surprising. He's a good player, but for whatever reason, 2 teams were willing to trade him recently. We'll see with him. But Jared Kelenic there, their number 1 prospect, and Julio Rodriguez, they're both pretty good outfielders. If they can both pan out for Seattle's in a good position for a while. If they can get those 3 outfielders to all pan out, or even 2 of the 3, they're going to be set for a while. They built this by drafting 5 of these players, acquiring 3 of them via trade, and signing 2 of them as international free agents. So Seattle's all over the place. That's what you got to do when you're a small market club, especially a team that's like this, not that good. Seattle should be in line for a top pick in the 2021 draft. So this good farm system's about to get even better, which is just insane. And honestly, the only one who's really at risk of graduating from this is Evan White right now, because he is in the big leagues. But again, we don't know for a fact that he's going to graduate. Now we're on to the last AL West team in the Texas Rangers, and they have a pair of top 100 prospects in the 57th third baseman Josh Young, and the 78th prospect in catcher Sam Huff. They also have outfielder Landy Tavares, right-handed pitcher Cole Winn, shortstop Maximo Acosta, right-hand pitcher Hans Kroos, shortstop Anderson Tejada, second baseman Justin Foscu, left-handed pitcher Joe Palumbo, and third baseman, first baseman Sherton Apostle. So this isn't the strongest farm system in baseball. Uh, Texas is in a weird state right now where they're not great, but they're not bad enough to get like a top three pick. So this farm system's probably not going to grow as much as they'd want it to in the next year or two, which is too bad for Texas. But at the same time, they're still a good enough team that they're in some competition at least. They're not like a World Series favorite or World Series contender. In fact, they're near the bottom of the division, but it goes to show you, don't get overexcited about a couple players. Uh, Texas needs to get some new players soon, but they have about the normal split. They have drafted 6 of these guys. They signed 3 of them as international free agents, and they acquired one of them via trade. You know, their third baseman there, Josh Young, he looks decent, but I don't know for a fact that he's going to be a true MLB talent when he gets called up. Now we get to our first NL West team in the Arizona Diamondbacks, and Arizona is another strong farm system. So they have 5 top 100 players. They're going to be the 46th prospect, outfielder Christian Robinson, the 52nd prospect and outfielder Alec Thomas, the 80th prospect and catcher Dalton Varsho, the 89th prospect and shortstop Gerardo Perdomo, and the 97th prospect in outfielder Corbin Carroll, along with four righties and a lefty and left-handed Blake Walston, and 4 righties here in Corbin Martin, Bryce Jarvis, Luis Farias, and Levy Kelly. So Christian Robinson is young, and he looked really good in the minors last year. Of course, he's not playing this year. He's 19, I want to say. He's either 19 or just turned 20, so they don't want to rush him, especially as an international free agent. Alec Thomas has looked good as well. So they're looking, this team's looking decent. You got a bunch of arms at the bottom of your top here. So, quantity over quality maybe, but the fact is, in Arizona, it's always a good idea to have hitters because their home field is definitely more of a hitter's ballpark than a pitcher's ballpark. So if you can get some good hitters, you can just kind of say, all right, let's go. Plus, remember, you play in Colorado. You're playing in a typical season, 81 games in Arizona, which is hitter's ballpark, plus 9 games in Colorado, which is a hitter's ballpark. Yeah, you play 9 games in Dodger Stadium, which is not a hitter's ballpark, but nor is Petco Field. But, you're still in a good position. You want to have a strong offense. The arms you can kind of get via free agency. They've been doing that lately, and it's going to be interesting. This farm system, they're definitely about to go through a rebuild. Finally, it looks like, since they gave up a lot of guys at the trade deadline. Archie Bradley's gone. Not Ketel Marte, but Starling Marte is gone. So they're definitely looking like they're going to be going through a rebuild, and looks like they want to keep Ketel Marte. I think they're just kind of saddled with Madison Bumgarner at this point, but they definitely have a bright future. It might not be the best team in the NL West, but the farm system's at least one of the best. They acquired 6 of these guys from the draft, 3 of them as international signings, and 1 of them from trade. Now we get to the Colorado Rockies, and the Rockies have the worst farm system in the West. They have 1 top 100 prospect in the 56th prospect outfielder, Zach Veen. Then they have lefty Ryan Rollison, first baseman Michael Toglia, third baseman outfielder Ryan Velade, catcher Drew Romo, a pair of third basemen in Aaron Schuck and Colton Welker, a right-hander in Chris McMahon, a first baseman in Grant Lavigne, and a left-hander in Ben Bowden. So again, this prospect pool isn't the best. Colorado, similar to Milwaukee and Texas, I've mentioned this for them. They're good, but they're not good enough to compete, and they're bad, but they're not bad enough to get a top 5 or 10 pick. So they kind of shoot themselves in the foot by being competitive but not good enough every year. That's what happens when you just sign a bunch of veterans year after year. So this farm system, they got a lot of corner infielders, which is good, but having 5 corner infielders in your top 10 prospects, and a lot of them are getting close to the major league level, isn't the smartest idea, because all of a sudden you have a logjam of 5 of them, let's just say, on your roster. And let's just assume the NL implements the DH. Congratulations. Now you can fit 3 of them in your lineup at once. Maybe 4 if you throw, Vlade out into the outfield. But it's far more likely that they end up trading 1 or 2 or possibly even 3 of them. But at the same time, that's assuming all of them pan out. So Colorado definitely has its work cut out for it in the future. Maybe they'll trade Arenado this offseason. If they do, that will definitely net them a few good prospects. But if not, we shall see. Colorado needs some help soon. How they actually drafted all 10 of these players. So it goes to show you they're not being big spenders in the international free agency market, and they're not trading a lot because they don't have a lot of assets that people are willing to trade a decent prospect for, except for Arenado. Now we get to the LA Dodgers. So this farm system was actually better earlier this year, obviously, before they had traded away the number 47 prospect in baseball in Jeter Downs. They looked even better, but they still have 4 top 100 players in second baseman Gavin Lux, who was the number 2 prospect in all of baseball, the number 71st prospect in baseball in righty Josiah Gray, whom they acquired in a trade from the Reds in that Yasiel Puig trade. So they're still trading players. It's not like they're sitting on their hands and just acquiring assets. The number 77 prospect and catcher Keibert Ruiz, and the number 90 prospect and right-hander Brusdar Graterol. And then they have third baseman Cody Jose, second baseman Michael Busch, catcher Diego Cartaya, outfielder Luis Rodriguez, and a pair of righties in Bobby Miller and Clayton Beeter. So again, Gavin Lux was at the alternate trading site for the vast majority of the 2020 season. He got called back, and then they put him back. Now they called him up again. It's just been a mess. He hasn't been mentally prepared, they said, something weird like that. So that's always concerning. But at the same time, he's young. He looks good. He needs to get his average back, but he's still young, and he just got called back. So I mean, there's still time for him. Josiah Gray is looking like a good, pitcher for the future. I don't know if he's going to be a top player. Plus, the thing with the Dodgers is I don't know if any of these guys are really going to get called up except for Lux, because the Dodgers are looking to compete now. And if they fall flat on their face again in 2020, they're going to be spending more money and getting more players from trades because they know they need to win now. The Dodgers are in a bad state right now. It's always good to have a pair of catchers in your top, towards the top of your farm system. They got some righties, which is always good again. But other than that, and Gavin Lux, it's kind of a lackluster group. But still, having 4 top 100 prospects is good. They drafted 5 of these guys. They acquired 3 of them as international free agent signings, and they traded for 2 of them. So now we get to the San Francisco... Why did I write San Francisco Giants there? Sorry, that's the San Diego Padres. I don't know why I wrote Giants there, but that is the San Diego Padres. And the Padres, again, have one of the top farm systems in baseball. They have 5 top 100 prospects, with the number 5 prospect in left-handed pitcher Mackenzie Gore, the number 26 prospect in shortstop C.J. Abrams, the number 28 prospect in right-handed pitcher Luis Patino, the number 53 prospect in catcher Luis Campusana, and the 84th prospect in outfielder Robert Hasel, along with a pair of lefties in Adrian Morjon and Ryan Weathers, along with a righty, Cole Wilcox, infielder Tucupita Marcanio, and a second baseman shortstop Jorge Mateo. Again, this is the Padres, not the Giants. I don't know why I wrote that. So Mackenzie Gore is definitely one of the top pitching prospects in all of baseball. He's looked very good, but he's young. He's either 20 or 21 now. He is not going to make his debut in 2020 unless something crazy happens. C.J. Abrams has looked good again in the minors. A lot of these guys are going to start graduating within a couple of years. That's the same for every farm system, but for the Padres in particular, they're going to start getting a couple of these guys. Mackenzie Gore, again, really high on Mackenzie Gore. He looks like he's going to be a good player for years to come in the future. How they built this, they got 6 of these guys from the draft. They traded for 1 of them, and they signed 3 of them as international free agents. Again, that's the Padres, not the Giants. Now we get to the real San Francisco Giants here, and they have 4 top 100 prospects. And their number 1 prospect is the 15th in baseball catcher Joey Bart. Then they have the 36th shortstop Marco Luciano, the 69th in outfielder Heliot Ramos, and the 75th in outfielder Hunter Bishop, along with left-handed pitcher Seth Seth Corey, catcher Patrick Bailey, outfielder Alexander Canario, third baseman Luis Toribio, outfielder Luis Mateos, and right-handed pitcher Sean Hagili. So the Giants, again, they have a good farm system. They have 2 catchers in their top 6. The Giants are always good at developing catchers for the most part. Joey Bart recently earned a call up to the big leagues. He started off decent, but he's cooled off a little bit since then. He's a good guy. I think next year's he's going to be the backup catcher for the Giants behind, Buster Posey, at least to start the season. But I think he'll end up taking the starting role. He's got to do a little more developing. But other than him, it's a decent farm system. They drafted 6 of these guys and signed 4 of them as international free agents. So the Giants are in a good position, especially with Joey Bart. But that is the AL and NL West top 10 prospects for each team. I don't know why I wrote Giants for Padres. I wasn't thinking there. But it's definitely the Central's got to be the strongest pool by far for prospects. But you got the best prospect system right here in Seattle. So, it's always fun to look at these videos, to look at these teams, see who their prospects are. And it looks like the Astros are going to be in trouble soon. They have some good pitching prospects, but they don't have enough. Then, the Angels have a bunch of outfielders and a bunch of offense. And even teams like Arizona seem to have a bunch of offensive heavy players, and then you get some pitchers. So you can definitely tell teams are drafting and signing players based on what they need, not what people think they need. And that's a smart idea because, for example, Arizona, that's a very hitters-friendly stadium. It used to be even worse for hitters, but that's why they have a lot of hitters in their top part of their prospect pool. Same with Colorado, really hitter-heavy because that's a very hitter-friendly ballpark. So, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys enjoyed this series. Again, sorry about that, Padres fans, but hope you guys enjoyed this. And again, I would like to give a shout out to the follower who recommended this video. Hope you guys all enjoyed this. Have a great rest of your day.